I'm not sure if this is for you, but let's say you and I are sitting down over lunch and you'll tell me you're getting divorced. The first thing I'd ask, what are you most worried about? And your answer is likely what to do with the house, Melina. So let's talk about how to find your home's true value when someone wants to keep the house, why the deed and mortgage are two different problems, and how home sales turn into power struggles, and what happens when important items are left until last minute. Let's start with the number one, the home's value. One of the first red flags during this emotional time in a divorce is when one or both spouses have already decided that the house is worth more than it actually is. Maybe someone checked an online estimate, maybe a neighbor's house sold, or maybe one spouse declares, this house has got to be worth at least $1.5 million. I hear this all the time. But where did the number come from? In San Diego, two homes that look similar online can sell for very different amounts based on condition, location, lot size, upgrades, parking, floor plan. So making assumptions based on an incomplete online estimate is already a mistake. And when the value is wrong, everything built on that value can also be wrong. I talk to mediators all the time, and there's so much struggle around the value. By the way, if you need a good attorney or mediator to help you, text me. I will give you a few good resources here in San Diego. So, you and your spouse start negotiating over money that may not actually exist, and you might expect to receive way more from a sale than you actually will. Another warning sign is when both spouses assume different home values based on what benefits them most. Maybe one spouse chooses the higher amount because they want to sell, and the other chooses the lower amount because they want to do the buyout. At that point, the valuation has stopped being informative and started being ammunition. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you for this: before you discuss selling, buying out the spouse, or dividing the equity, get a professional home valuation that's based on the current market instead of guesswork or wishful thinking. That gives everyone the same starting point and keeps the conversation bounded. I offer these for free here in the San Diego marketplace. Please reach out. Now, another problem that comes up all too often is when one spouse insists, I'm keeping the house. And of course, I totally understand why someone might feel strongly about that. Your home might provide stability for the kids. It might be close to school, family, work, or it just might provide the familiarity that you just need right now and you don't want to lose. But wanting to keep the house and being financially able to keep it are very different things. Before you negotiate a buyout, you need to figure out home loan that you can actually afford, the payment that will allow you to still maintain the home, and how you're going to pay out your partner. And that needs to happen early. I actually did another video about this exact scenario. Check out my YouTube channel. I've seen people spend months negotiating a buyout amount only to learn that they couldn't qualify for it. Now they're back at the beginning, except they've lost time, spent money, and might be a lot more pressure right now. You'll also need to review the existing mortgage. Depending on the loan, there might be questions about refinancing, loan assumptions, or other lender options. The best way to get answers is to talk to the loan officer and servicer as early on. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has also reported that some divorcing homeowners have run into obstacles when trying to assume or modify an existing mortgage. The most important part is having a detailed plan. By the way, I have a specific section on this on my website, so head over to melinarizon.com. Back to the loan scenario. Who will qualify? What will the new payment be? Where will the buyout money come from? And can that person still afford the house after the divorce is final? Emotion may start the conversation, but the numbers need to finish it. And that leads to another issue I see all the time. People assume that changing ownership also changes the responsibility for the loan. This is probably one of the most overlooked parts of divorce real estate. The deed and the mortgage are totally different things. The deed is about ownership and the mortgage deals with responsibility for the loan. So removing someone from the deed doesn't remove them from the mortgage. And a divorce agreement saying one spouse is responsible for the payment doesn't necessarily release the other spouse from their obligation to pay. Even when one of you takes responsibility for the marital debt, both spouses could still be liable to the creditor. This becomes a serious issue when someone thinks, I'm fine, the divorce agreement says my spouse has to pay. That agreement may create obligations between you and your ex, but the lender wasn't necessarily part of that agreement. If the payment is missed and both names are still on the loan, both people's credit can be affected. It can also make it harder for the spouse who moved out to qualify for another home because the existing mortgage might still show up as one of their obligations. That's why you really need to discuss transferring ownership and resolving the mortgage as two separate steps. Before anyone signs away their ownership interest, they should understand exactly all of these implications. By the way, if this is informative and helpful, please subscribe to my channel and also go over to my blog section at melinarizon.com. My goal is to help you avoid the mistakes that are expensive to reverse. Now let's talk about what happens when the house becomes part of the conflict itself. Selling during divorce gets very tough when one spouse starts using the sale as leverage to gain control. That means they're refusing showings, delaying paperwork, rejecting reasonable offers. Sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's more subtle. That just takes a lot of days to figure out. And now the photographer can't get access, or disclosures aren't complete, or an offer arrives, but you can't respond fast enough. Meanwhile, the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and utility bills continue to pile up. The solution is to set clear expectations from the beginning. How will showings requests be handled? Who approves repairs? How quickly will both respond to offers? The other important factor is that both you and your spouse should be communicating with your agent. That way, even if you're not on speaking terms, you still both get the same updates, the same market feedback, same explanations. And of course, it's not your agent's job to take sides or to decide who's right or wrong. I pride myself on giving neutral information about the home and the market to both parties involved. Basically, the more structure you put around the sale, the fewer opportunities there are for delays or conflict. Because when the house becomes a power struggle, it usually ends up hurting both of you in the long run. Now, this last one is something I see way too often, and that's waiting until the last minute to make major decisions about the house. Sometimes people avoid those decisions because they're overwhelmed or because they think divorce should be pretty much finished before they start the process of selling. But waiting can reduce your options and cost you money at the same time. For example, you don't need to decide immediately whether to keep your home or sell it, but you should understand the value, ownership, and monthly costs as early as possible. There can also be legal restrictions on what either of you can do with the property while the divorce is pending. In California, family law restraining orders usually prevent spouses from transferring, hiding, or disposing of any assets. Those restrictions start for the filing spouse when the case is filed and for the other spouse after service. And taxes also shouldn't be an afterthought. The federal home sale exclusion can only allow qualifying homeowners to exclude up to $250,000 of gain and $500 for a married couple, but your eligibility depends on your status at time of filing. So be sure to review the timing of all sale or ownership transfer with a tax professional. Ultimately, it's always better to get all the information early. Then you can make the decision as soon as you're ready instead of having it made for you or a short deadline or court getting involved. So let's recap. 5 major red flags. Number 1, the home's value is based on wishful thinking instead of the current market value. One spouse wants to keep the house before finding out they can actually afford it. Ownership is transferred without fully resolving the mortgage. The sale becomes a way to delay, to control. And taxes. Legal restrictions and important deadlines aren't addressed until way too late. I see this all the time. And the solutions to all 5 comes down to this: communication. Once you get all the important information, coming up with a solid plan is so important and makes everything easier. If you're dealing with a San Diego property during divorce, reach out to me today for a free neutral home value report, and be sure to subscribe for more practical videos about San Diego divorce real estate, home values, and the decisions that will affect your financial future. Thanks for watching. My name is Melina Rizon, Coldwell Banker West.